It come from Mississippi down in Alabama, creeping like a fever all across the land. From deep in the Delta on the Louisiana shore, people gotta have it, they wanna hear some more. It's a hillbilly rock. Beat it with a drum, playing them guitars, shooting from a gun, keeping up the rhythm, steady as a rock. Do a little thing called the hillbilly rock. They say it came from Memphis down in Tennessee or drifted into Georgia by 1953. Just as long as it's greasy, as long as it's fast, long as it's pumpy, honey, gonna last. It's a hillbilly rock. Beat it with a drum, playing them guitars, like shooting from a gun, keeping up the rhythm, steady as a clock. Do a little thing called a hillbilly rock. Way back in old Kentucky where the bluegrass grows, through the Carolinas on the dirt red roads, burning like a fire, running wild in the woods, from Arkansas to Texas. It sounds so good. It's a hillbilly rock. Beat it with a drum, playing with guitars, shooting from a gun, keeping up the rhythm, steady as a rock. Do a little thing called a hillbilly rock. Woo! That is how y'all doing? That is Marty Stewart with Hillbilly Rock. I haven't done a live in a while. An Anti-imperialist America. This is Dust James, the Marxist Leninist trucker, come to you live from my humble home in rural North Carolina. It is a wonderful Friday night. Oh, just got through with a long work week. I'm sitting here with y'all having my dinner. I got a crunchy piece of frozen pizza and a good old PBR. Oh, hope everybody's doing good tonight. Please share this out. Please hit that like button. Share this out on Facebook. Share this out on Twitter. Tell your mom, your grandpa, and your cousins, and your kins, and your friends, and your next door neighbor. Yeah, there's a good time happening over here at Anti-imperialist America. We're glad to have you. Bienvenido a la programa Anti-imperialista America. Vamos a hablar de las cosas de la clase trabajador. Si tienes una pregunta en español, puedes poner aquí en los comentarios y yo puedo responder en español si quieres. Gracias a mi gente por mirar. Thank you and welcome. Interesting topic tonight. Well, everybody settle in. Everybody settle in for a moment. I'm going to share this out into places it needs to be shared. And I'm going to get right into our show tonight, parasocial relationships and class struggle. Whew. Going to find this up on the YouTube. This is like dead space almost. Ooh. Sharing it out. If you would like to be part of the Working Class Revolt chat group on Facebook and meet other members of our community, ones even near you, please send me a message on Facebook or Twitter. There's also a Twitter message group around Working Class Revolt. Working Class Revolt is the coalition show that I lead, along with doing this personally, Anti-imperialist America. Let's see, that's where I'm sharing this out to. See, get up here. Working Class Revolt. Good stuff. Alrighty, I got that shared to a few places. So today's topic is parasocial relationships and class struggle. Those things don't seem like they go in common. What is a parasocial relationship? What does that mean? What am I talking about? I was actually going to sing Hank Williams Jr. Hank Williams Jr. Dinosaur. I kind of like, I'm a dinosaur. Should have died out a long time ago. But there was some horribly homophobic lyrics in that. And it didn't really match my singing style, so I didn't want to go along with it. But parasocial relationships seem to be more and more of a thing with this whole YouTube culture, with more people being online. People might say, well, what is a parasocial relationship? A parasocial relationship is nothing new. This goes back to the advent of radio and television. This is a phenomenon where a fan will feel emotionally attached to a person that does not know they exist. This happened with the Elvis and the Beatles and stuff like that. If you watch Beatlemania and the craziness of, young women, the first real pop stars that hit the United States in the late 60s, or between mid 60s and late 60s. There was a scare, first pop stars, and all these women, young girls were like, oh, they're so cute. They're like the boy bands of the day, screaming fans, oh, they're so wonderful. And preachers would burn their records and whatnot, because, if you listen to the kind of like trance style, the rhythm behind rock and roll kind of puts you in a different place. And up until that point, that role was largely filled by religious institutions. So a lot of these preachers saw the Beatles as competition, so they burnt their records and called them devil. And then John Lennon made a thing about how they're bigger than Jesus, and all hell break loose and what have you not. And later on, John Lennon actually got into some revolutionary politics, started supporting the after the breakup of the group. Everybody hates Yoko Ono because she broke up their favorite boy band, and then he gets into some more revolutionary politics, supports the Panthers, comes out hard against the anti-war, comes out hard anti-war against the war in Vietnam. I'm not seeing any comments, man. All the people here, hit that like button. Please get in the comments. So he kind of does some of that stuff. Comes out with this somewhat more political album. Hey, David Fox, nice to have you here, fellow co-host of Working Class Revolt. So this is actually one of John Lennon's more political albums. And if you look at it, it's actually not that brilliant. You really shouldn't get your politics from pop stars. I really don't know what the CIA, the FBI mostly, that tried to remove his status, his immigration status. There's a good documentary I have on DVD behind me called John Lennon versus the United States. It's similar to the COINTELPRO, the way they assassinated the Panthers. I think John Lennon was helping to fund the Panthers. The attacks, they put LSD, they drugged Paul Robeson. This was like the very beginning of COINTELPRO, but I think they had less to worry about as far as John Lennon. If you look at some of his politics, look at this over here. This is actually a picture of Nixon and Mao dancing naked together. He was very anti-communist. I think later on he kind of changed that position. There's a lot of anti-communist and ridiculousness. There's a song in here, "Woman is the N-word of the world," which is kind of ridiculous. But he was so popular, and it was really the first pop boy band, and John Lennon led that. And so many people were going to watch that no matter what. To have even close to someone of that high a profile have, revolutionary politics really scared the establishment. And I think this kind of like guy who was obsessed with John Lennon ended up killing him. He also, somebody who had a lot of the same characterizations kind of like acted with someone that was obsessed with him, someone in an unhealthy parasocial relationship, ended up killing John Lennon. So we can look at this as far these parasocial relationships. You talk about, let's talk about me. I'm sitting down. Let's go back to early 90s. I was about 5 years old. Early 90s. There's 8 of us living in a in a 2-bedroom trailer on a mile-long dirt road. And one of the best meals we have, because we didn't have a lot going on, was frozen pizza. You know, frozen pizza and milk. And we had, one of them old. It was the '90s, so everybody else had buttons on their TV. We still had them turn knobs, and this was before the government mandated to the conversion to digital television around 2007, 2008. And a lot of those old TVs were rather cheap, and even in rural areas with digital signal, it's either all or nothing. It's either crystal clear picture or it doesn't come in. With a wider bandwidth and analog signal, you could receive television channels even in rural areas. So we had a few television channels. We'd watch television, and this is an interesting time period. Kind of the high time of television. We didn't have cable, so this, already the '80s, the cable kind of messed everything up. But before cable television, from about the late '50s up until about the '80s, that was the primary form of media, which had a huge effect on culture. A lot of people saying we're becoming more polarized in this time period. But if you look before the advent of this golden age of television, there was actually very highly partisan press. When it was newspaper and it was radio, there was actually more partisanship then. And you had this time when media was more centralized. And then when you got in the cable news and the advent of Fox News and this more partisan, and then the internet even expanded that partisan divide, which we have today. It's even further fragmenting with the internet. But that's kind of like how it always was. But to get back to my topic of parasocial relationships. So you look at me down that dirt road, I watch, people on TV, and that's as a child, that makes impressions on you. You start to like actors and stuff like that. If you look at recently, there's a case in the news between, I think her name's Anne and Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp, loved by millions. This is a good example of a parasocial relationship. Johnny Depp is loved by a lot of people because he's handsome, charming, weird, kind of like a bad boy outsider. What's not to love about him? A lot of positive roles. Pirates of the Caribbean. He's loved by a lot of people. But then people are a little bit shook up when they start to see, Johnny Depp had some issues with drugs. He wasn't the nicest to his partner. This kind of like shook some people's eyes up a little bit. You've had different political things around this, but still a lot of people still liked Johnny Depp, and he kind of won the case. But this is what I'm getting. This is what the meaning. There's actually I think Tristan on here has an account called Parasocial Relationships. And in that account, Parasocial Relationship, he just goes through different YouTube videos. Shout out to please subscribe to Tristan at Parasocial. Also, we're really glad to have Class Analysis here. Thank you. I'm glad to have you here, and thank you for the singing. Yes, please subscribe to Parasocialite. That's where I got the idea. I actually was told something about him, and then I just Googled Parasocialite, and then I looked up this word parasocial, and that's what got me on this rabbit hole. And I started doing some research, and I thought it was interesting. So we've established what parasocial ism is. It's where people have a platform. They're actors, actresses, radio stars, now even internet, YouTube celebrities and such, and they put out a thing, and then people engage with that in their life, and they feel that kind of like becomes one of the relationships in their life. But it's very one-sided, where it's big to the person receiving the media, but the person giving the media doesn't even know they really exist.
And there can be some more problematic ones. Probably one of the more problematic ones is they say you're standing someone. You're standing someone. Stan was a problematic fan of Eminem. I think he wrote a song about. And in that song, I think he talks about someone who's obsessed with him, just similar to the killer of John Lennon was obsessed with him. And now it gets even weirder now with the internet. And now you can interact with them more. Now they can kind of like feed into that. People like saying now you have people getting on the stream saying, I love you all. Or Ozzy Osbourne would say, I love everybody, or like some stuff like people kind of feed into it and market this. And you get into, more dark areas like sex work, like was it only live only or something? Where people sell nude photographs of themselves or do live webcam with clients. It kind of gets into it and markets this phenomenon. And for the most part, these are positive relationships. People get something out of it. They see it as opportunity. They don't go too far into it. They have healthy parasocial relationships. And I believe that's what I do. I'm going down the road every day. I have I put on YouTube personalities, mostly politics. And I think, it's healthy, it's positive. It's good stuff. But you have people who like fans that assault people. You have stalkers, and you have paparazzis, and all this other crazy phenomenon that goes along with it. So I kind of covered that. But what do I mean? How does this get into class struggle? Well, when I come up and organize, I was going to sing that song about Dinosaur. By Hank Williams Jr. It had some homophobic lyrics I didn't really want to repeat. But essentially, like, oh, I like country music. Everything's in the rock and everything's crazy. And I'm a dinosaur. And I kind of feel like being a dinosaur with my politics. Like I said, I came up in a small town, a small military town. And a lot of the people would... I was always in people's faces. I didn't even have internet. I didn't even have internet really until I got to college. We didn't have any home internet until I got to college. I didn't have a computer till I got to college. The only everybody else started having flip phones, 2000s, and I didn't really have any of that. So I kind of grew up in a different era, and I got to hold on to that era a little bit longer than some other folks. Everything was face to face. It wasn't all this online and stuff. And I kind of came into the end of an era. I did counter recruitment. I did an internship with the the American Friends Service Committee. I ended up meeting up with Positive Comrades, learning Marxist Leninism, and we operated in a collective with Vanguard and mass organizations. A Vanguard is a more secretive party that regulates the membership. A mass organization is a completely public organization that you want people to join to do mass work that isn't necessarily Marxist Leninist or revolutionary, but it's mobilizing the people towards that cause. From the mass organization, you recruit people into the smaller circle within the Vanguard. It's kind of the difference. And I did that for some time, and then I dropped out of school and I had less time. I was over the road. I didn't really have time for this organization. Other had some issues as well. And I start listening to YouTube and listening to this stuff. And this trend starts emerging. And this trend is socialist YouTubers, socialist online, socialist on Twitter, class struggle activist online. It's this whole new thing. I remember you write a leaflet, you go to a protest, you try to give out all the leaflets to people at the protest, and then you put your information at the end and you hope they call you. That we would go and leaflet the unemployment office to try to organize the unemployed. We go outside the lines of the soup kitchen, try to organize the people there. A number of things. You go to a left protest, you hand out leaflets, you try to get those people to come to something else. This was, you may meet up, you network, you go out, you try to talk with as many people. It's a whole different world than this kind of online thing. I've been kind of stuck in this kind of online world since I was over the road. I barely came home, but one day, I mean, I've been trucking the last 8 years, and I think hey, it's me, Brian. It's been a while. How you doing, brother? It's good to see you. It's good to see you. So anyways, I turn on my uncle there. It's me, Brian, going down the road on YouTube, and you see what he's up to. And it's good to see you. It's good to see you. It's been a minute. I got to get back on my train of thought. So I've been kind of isolated with stuff, and I, start engaging in politics more online. I go through, I was online while I was still, doing more IRL stuff. Like that's where I met Ernesto Ayala, and that's how I got into Chicano nationalism, was mostly online. That's how I met those contacts and try to stay up with some of those folks. But when I got over the road, it was almost exclusively online and on Facebook and on YouTube and what have you. And it's kind of a whole different thing. You're no longer face to face. There's people you follow, people with bigger followings, people with smaller followings. There's ego. It's like everything you have in like IRL, like the drama of, this person was this person, this person said that about that person. It's like intensified 100 times worse, because now everybody has their like little tiny following, and then you have like these big folks and they have their own like prima donna, stuff. And then you try to combine this with socialist organizing, and it's just a mess. It's just a plain mess. And we thought we were disconnected from the people before with the protest cage. I mean, it's interesting. It's that's where the people are, and you try to get to them. And that, because more and more people are going on, there's actually less IRL work going on because people are getting their emotional needs, social emotional needs, satisfied with some of this online stuff. And it's kind of changed. The very physical technology has changed our entire social patterns and our entire social aspects of our society. It's Friday night. I should be out at the bar with the guys. I'm sitting here with y'all having a beer, talking up on the YouTube. It's crazy. And, and let's try to bring politics into this. Like I said, it gets weird. It gets really weird. And I think some people who stay and then you got money that gets involved in it. And then you have to sell things, and then you got algorithms, and who owns these social media corporations? It's big capital. It's the Zuckerbergs. It's, the Jeff Bezoses. It's all that crazy stuff. So, so you got that going on. Who owns that stuff? That is the highest, biggest money. That is like monopoly capitalist, the monopoly capitalist, globalist, evil motherfuckers who shut down free speech, who they are outright our enemy. So we're putting up on here that we're revolutionaries or we're socialists or what have you. And the FBI is writing all this down. They're analyzing this. They know exactly what's going on. They promote divisions. Remember, go back and watch that. Go back and watch that study on Garvey, Marcus Garvey. I talked about how the tension between Marcus Garvey and Eugene Debs. Was it Eugene Debs? I don't remember, but there was a specific division that was going on there. No, it was W.E.B. Du Bois, and Marcus Garvey. And I think Du Bois's wife talked about how the powers that be would try to create rifts and divisions within leaders within the Black Power movement. And if they had to do that, actually had to infiltrate those organizations, and they actually had to plant those seeds and promote those crazy stuff, how easy it is that to do that today with technology and algorithms, where certain posts are boosted, certain posts aren't boosted. And people are starting to put their organization, their political organizations, more into online spaces and online work. And it becomes a problem because, well, let's just look what happened recently with this Ukraine deal. A lot of the people in Ukraine, they only told one side of the story. Jeff Soros, and all these, crazy imperialists, backed a Nazi coup in 2014, killed thousands of ethnic Russians, and were literally funding open Nazis that were part of the government that created the coup. But all you see on the news is Russia invaded, Russia bad. And then all my people in my social circle, we put up pictures of the Nazis, the Ukrainian Nazis, outright open Nazis in the Ukrainian government. And our posts were all taken down. We were all took off Facebook. When something came up hard, it was too much for them to deal with, and we were kicked off of that platform. So, I mean, they can take us off these platforms at any moment. They can infiltrate. They can infiltrate different spaces more easily. They know exactly what's going on. They can push certain conversation and shut other conversations down. There's a lot of pitfalls to technology. And there's a lot of pitfalls to the parasocial relationship. I think a lot of the people have figured out if they can get a big enough YouTube following, they can translate that into a political organization. And in a lot of times, this is a good thing. One of my favorite people, Caleb Maupin, who runs the Center for Political Innovation, which I'm a proud paying dues member of, did exactly that. He was a communist like myself during the Occupy Day, became a journalist, and then he started doing these YouTube videos, grew quite a community. First 10,000 subscribers, now near 20,000 subscribers. Part of what influenced me to do this YouTube was Caleb, along with my Chicano nationalist friends. And, and then he did some good stuff. And then he took some of those contacts he meant and he built the Center for Political Innovation. It's a great thing. And he pushed principled scientific socialism. That's a good example of a parasocial relationship. Now, let's just say somebody who doesn't, a younger person who doesn't have any in real life political experience, reads some books, gets a little bit of knowledge, gets up on the YouTube. Maybe they're even a little bit talented or funny in a way. But they don't really have any serious politics. And they're trying to build a following. How easily would it be to manipulate them to push divisive or reactionary tactics that could be toxic and harm our movement. And let's look at this. Let's get into this further. What if we add this culture of debate bro and wrestling and heels and this kind of like match off fight kind of stuff, where you have these Jerry Springer shouting matches to get people engaged on their most base interest and avoid principled politics altogether, or a shadow of politics together. Just enough politics to say it's political. But in reality, it's a wrestling match. And you choose who your enemy is. And you choose who your friend is. And you have these different tribes and these different battles. And all of this is completely disconnected from the masses. All of this is completely disconnected from the lower portion of the working class. And it can maybe even appeal to reactionary politics. Maybe some of the conservative backlash that's happening from the manipulation of our policies by the ultra rich and ultra elite. And you start having, we all know about the synthetic left, and we all know about BreadTube and how they're manipulated by the CIA and how they serve imperialism. And then you want to fight them, and then you end up being these wrestling heels that don't really engage in class struggle. They don't really even have an understanding of the legacy of what socialism is in this country. Don't have an understanding of the experience I've had in the street, in the labor movement, face to face, building people with coalitions, with different ideas and different understandings. And you start to shut yourself off. And because you can block whoever you want to block, and you don't have to engage with as many people, you can create these really weird niche kind of groups and audiences. And you start to do that, and then let's say you're being repressed by, let's say you have good anti-imperialist in politics. You have good anti-imperialist politics, and you're being repressed by the state. And then you think, even though you have some reactionary tendencies and you're disconnected from the working class, and you really don't have, and some of your political positions are completely and utterly absurd, anybody who criticizes you is now an enemy. And you're going to go after them with those absurd debate bro tactics. I mean, it's really a sad thing to see. And then you have more principled forces aligning for whatever reason, because they're also under attack, aligning with some of these small internet cults that have obsessive behavior, that never criticized, because everybody wants to suck up to the person that got all the subscribers, has all the influence, that has, really a little bit of power, just in their little small internet clique. They got a little bit of power. Everybody wants to suck up to them. Everybody wants to believe their ideas. And if they believe their ideas, then they're socially rewarded. And they're allowed to get further within this inner structure of this parasocial relationship in which they set up. And then anybody who attacks that leader is an immediate enemy, an immediate horrible person that has to be attacked. Oh, we got Parasocialite on. I'm doing please subscribe to Parasocial. I'm actually doing a show on Parasocialite, parasocialism, if you want to talk about it, some of its pitfalls when it comes to activism. So you start getting these kind of insular groups around these kind of niche internet folks, who claim to be about class struggle, and then you enter money into it, where some of these people, they make enough money off of these YouTube shows where they don't have to work. Well, who has money? Usually not the working class. Middle class people usually pay are able to pay subscriptions. That kind of explains BreadTube. And then you got the heels of BreadTube who, don't actually engage in class struggle, don't actually talk to the people, don't analyze the material conditions that we need to get to the most oppressed and most exploited to build the power to go against the system. Every day, every week, I got to make sure I keep up with these Patreon subscribers. I got to get these super chats. I got to get this and that. Or, and with this snowballing and bad economy and all this government repression, you have more and more people depending on that. Isn't that going to have an effect on their politics? Couldn't that push it astray? Couldn't that push that to a point where it's no longer really about socialism, even though it claims to be about socialism? I mean, I want to talk. I'm up here on the YouTube. I don't get a lot of views. It is what it is. But I mean, I got a family. I got a life. I'm a truck driver. I've been in the experience for a long time. To me, this is just a way of getting my ideas out there. And I'm honest and I'm truth. Sometimes I'm more brutally truth and brutally honest. And I'm not big on this whole, that's my ally, that's my enemy, that kind of stuff. I'm about the cause. I'm about socialism. You could attack me all you want. But if you are standing for the cause of the working class, which is my prime objective, if you are standing for anti-imperialism, if you are standing with the poor, black, and brown people, with the workers and the oppressed against the capitalists, I don't care if you attack me. I support you. This whole thing around this patriotic socialist debate, I've always been friends with, even the most militant, oppressed nationalists, black nationalists, Chicano nationalists. And to a lot of black and Chicano nationalists who've been oppressed by this system for so long and see any form of American patriotism as an enemy. When I came out as an American socialist, I was attacked. But I didn't care. I don't care if I'm attacked. I don't get in this cult, this kind of like, you're my friend. If you attack me, I hate you and I'm going after you. I don't think that's the correct position. The correct position of a socialist and a communist is, if someone is benefiting the cause, that is a friend and an ally, regardless if they're attacking them. Now, you got to be defensive and you don't want them to destroy you. But if someone's doing good work for the cause, even if they're in hostile with you, they're doing good work for the cause. So I continue to support principled anti-imperialists that build power within the community, that build power within oppressed groups. I will continue to support them even if they attack me. I don't care. My cause is the people. My cause is the working class. My cause is socialism. So I will continue to support people that would even attack me or speak bad of me. My entire impression analysis of people is, what are they doing for the cause? What do they have to offer? I'm constantly analyzing this. When I meet contacts online, when I meet people in real life, when I go down to Raleigh to the HKIJ and I'm looking through the crowd, looking at the signs, looking for people, what are they doing for the cause? What is their class position? Who can they get to? What skills do they have that can benefit the cause? What can we collaborate with each other? Who can I get on my YouTube show? Who can I get in my chat group? Who can I get to do some translating or some graphic work for somebody? Who can I get in contact with another person that would benefit somebody else's work? Even some work I'm not even involved in. Like, if this person could meet up with that person, I know they're doing good work. This person could meet good work and doing that. And I can be the connection to connect those forces together to help push the movement and build a bigger struggle. This is what we're constantly looking for. We're constantly looking for, everyone is a potential ally until they prove otherwise. Everyone is a potential resource. And even people who were enemies in the past can be friends and allies later on. But if someone's hurting the struggle, if someone's causing isolation and division, I'm going to call it out. I'm going to call it out straight. And it ain't whether you attack me, it's what I see as far as is the entire picture. And some of these, you know, these cult-like mentalities and groups, some of this toxic behavior, some of the stuff that's being pushed online, it's very concerning. And I just want everybody to take a step back and take a breath. Think about things calmly. Be in control. To be powerful is to be able to control your emotions. Be able to think logically about what is best for me, what is best for my community, what is best for the working class, what is best for the overall anti-imperialist struggle that humanity finds itself in. Start making decisions from these loftier goals, from these higher purposes. Jesus Christ said, if someone is to live their life for themselves, they've lost it. But if they give their life to me, they have found it. And that's very similar to the cause of humanity, the cause of the struggle. I had a Sunday school teacher tell me that to get God is the center of the universe. And if you want to get closer to God, first you have to get closer to each other. And that really goes to speak about us being social beings and finding happiness and how we found happiness. And if you look at socialists, people in socialist countries are extremely happy. People in capitalist countries, especially the capitalist core here in the United States, where we're worked to death and we're isolated from our labor. We're isolated from each other. We're on this hamster wheel. We got to keep buying and buying and buying. You start to get this hopelessness, this emptiness, and try to replace, some of this, what we lost with, more tribal communities, even with peasant communal structures. Larger amounts of people living together, interacting, rather serving each other, being amongst each other, really fulfilling that human need, the evolutionary and spiritual need of collective understanding, collective work, working towards a collective purpose. And you could really see that in contrast to the people who laid the first roads in the Soviet Union, to the people who built the biggest dam in the world in the Soviet Union. And today, in people in China that are building these massive highways and railroads and whole new cities, working together, seeing their country expand and improve, and the lives around each other improve, compared to the hopelessness, degradation, and decay of what is the imperialist core in the United States. So I'll go over a few of these comments. Shout out to Stuart Edwards. That discussion y'all had with the Third Worldist, Union guy from Jersey, to me was the embodiment and the spirit that needed. One of my favorite moments of all the programs I've seen. Thank you so much, Stuart Edwards. Brother Victor Coronado is a good friend of Working Class Revolt. He's a co-host. He's a host on Anti-Conquista. Please subscribe to that program. We actually ended up doing an episode with him. If you want to go on there, we have a work meeting with him as well, and we're hoping to have him back on in the future. And and if you look at Working Class Revolt, it really is its own unique coalition within the broader socialist movement and online movement. And we really are a place where certain anti-imperialists of different stripes can come into contact with each other and engage in principled, in honest discussion, and not look at each other's superficial traits and jump to conclusions, but read each other on a human level. Look at where each of us is trying to come from. Look at what each of us is trying to do, and find out a way to work together for a common purpose. Unity, unity, unity. Principled unity is really about what we're about and what's going to bring people forward. Well, if I don't know how much further I'd like to go. Oh, I was about to say, so this was I was talking about parasocial relationships. One of the first leaders of the boy band, John Lennon. It's actually interesting. I said I wasn't a huge fan of this album, but one of my favorite folk singers, who's actually going to be at the Center for Political Innovation concert out there in Kansas, brother David Rovix. This is one of my favorite albums. If you look at the kind of like has very similar. I think he was kind of like inspired because that was one of the more political albums. I guess when he only had the money to produce one album. This is the only vinyl record that brother David Rovix actually produced. You can go up on the website and get it. It has some amazing songs in here. Failed State. Failed State really goes well with these horrific shootings that continue to happen. How the United States is a failed state that can no longer provide even basic security for the people anymore because of this hopelessness and this degradation that's coming from the implosion of capitalism. They've got St. Patrick Battalion, a bunch of really good songs on here. I figured those records kind of look the same. Figured I'd do a plug for one of my favorite artists. He recently came out with a good talk on gun control, which I don't want to get into. Everybody thinks I got a long beard. I'm a Southern. I'm all for arm the proletariat. And, I am about arming the proletariat, but I'm going to be honest with y'all. We need some common sense, universally enforced gun control. Right now, guns are pumped into the gun culture, mostly urban, mostly middle class, more reactionary, and poor black and brown people have gun control against them. And a lot of the history of gun culture was to keep poor black and brown people down and in line. And it's a lot more bigger than just arm that and have a fight out. And I think we need to start relying less on the tools we have available and start looking more at the relationships we're building, the organizations and connections and the people. They got all the guns. The enemy spends more money, produces more guns than all the world can buy. Almost. The Russian military budget was only like $70 billion. They just gave $60 billion to Ukraine to drain the resources of the Russian people, because the Russian people are in alliance with the oppressed world, are in alliance with Syria and Venezuela and the nations they're trying to keep down and stop from growing social, and to stop from having an independent, strong nation that they can no longer exploit, so they can no longer extract super profits from. They got all the guns. We're not going to out-arm them. Our resource is the people. Our resources is the material contradictions of class and national oppression. Our power comes from going deeper and lower into the proletariat. Our power comes from understanding the national question, from understanding that black and brown people are super exploited in this country and are oppressed nations within this country, and that they're fed up with this system. And that is why black people have been the most progressive and the most anti-war and the most revolutionary, along with our Chicano brothers and sisters. Our understanding comes from the class question. from understanding that working people are tired and fed up with their illusions, and their illusions are no longer working for us. We have to build power along these two material contradictions. And if we understand the material base, we can understand the social. If we understand the social, then we can appeal to the people, and build power from among the people. And then we can threaten their system. Then we can overthrow their system. If we can rip the minds off of the television screens and off the phones that they're controlling, and have them communicate with us and communicate with each other and compute with their neighbors and understand scientific socialism and build some resistance and act for themselves and arm themselves with knowledge. Not 5 or 6 YouTube stars who got 20,000 subscribers who are going to build these little cults. And somehow that's going to reach the masses. No, the masses reach the masses, from the masses to the masses. That's who does it. Each one teach one. Revolutionary education is the way forward. Make a contact list. Write down everybody you know who's mildly interested in socialism, and get them into work online, whatever work you're doing online. Get them into that. Have a conversation with them. Give them a book. Give them an essay. Give them a video. Share this video with them. Get them involved with the struggle. Find as many people as you can to bring into this struggle, to educate. Get them to educate other people. Each one teach one. Revolutionary education. It is the masses. We are a million drops in a bucket that will overthrow the system, that will become the weight to tear them down. We don't need big personalities that can't be questioned. We need millions of us talking to other millions of people. That is the way it's done. That is the social revolution. And if you yourself can single-handedly convert a few hundred people to this cause, then you are part of that link in that chain. And you matter, and you are the make history. The masses make history. Shout out to George Ybarra. There is no Second Amendment when it comes to people of color. Cops shoot first and check for permit later. Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? Thank you, George Ybarra, for coming on here and putting out that truth and that message. Shout out to Parasocial. Thank you so much for coming on. Please, I'm getting close to the hour. I didn't have a lot to prepare. I got some of my good causes up there. If anybody has any quick questions, please get in the comment and I'll respond. If not, I'll say a little bit of conclusions, and then I'll get into it. Dylan Smile, you were unruly slandered for delivering a principled critique, and I'm not even bitter about that. I mean, if you look back in this, I went under the material and social conditions that caused that to happen to me, and I'm not bitter about it. I'm mad that, people are putting so much faith in dead ends, and I'm watching all these resources be given to these con artists and grifters who don't have the correct revolutionary struggle. That's what bothers me. I want everyone to do each one teach one revolutionary tactics. That's what I want to spread. That's what bothers. What bothers me is that people are causing real harm to the movement, not any attacks on myself. But we're here. You're here. You're listening. You can be what is needed. I'm only a vessel. I'm only one drop in that bucket. I need everyone here to do everything they can to support these principles. The principles of American communism. The principles of respect. The principles of forgiveness. The principle that everyone is a resource. And even our enemies can become resources later. The persistence, dedication that comes from those deep feelings of love that Che Guevara talks about. The absolute sadness and empathy for the entire of humanity that's living under the boot of imperialism, living on less than $2 a day, living in war-torn regions. There's starvation in Afghanistan. There's starvation in Africa. And how we're told these wars are supposed to keep our freedom. And we have homelessness here. We have drug use here. We have outbreaks of prostitution, sex trafficking. Even those who have a home, because they're so disconnected and isolated, are depressed, into alcoholism. Even the middle class. This society that's destroying humanity, put us into a meat grinder for their profits, needs to end. The way forward is the people. The way forward is the masses. The way forward is you. I need you to be a revolutionary. I need you to reach everyone that you can reach. And I need it to be from a center of scientific study, not for views, not for likes, not for your cult, not because someone did something good to you or said something negative about you or did some bullshit to you. Because you care about this cause. And because you want to see a better future for humanity. Get involved. Talk to everyone you can. Tell them the good word about socialism and the new future that's possible if we can only get together and build. All power to the people. Thank you. Good night.